I'm talking to Sara Blecher, who is the director who made Otelo Burning. Sara, tell me, how did the film come to be made?
The film took a really long time to make. It took about 8 years to make. And the idea came when I was visiting. I'd lived in Durban for many years and then moved up to Joburg, and I'd gone back to visit. And it was now right about 10 years after apartheid had ended. And I was on the beachfront, and I was completely amazed at the change that had taken place in those 10 years. Because when I'd been living in Durban before, the beachfront had been completely white.
Yeah, white boys surfing.
White boys surfing and white lifeguards sitting on the chairs surrounded by pretty girls.
Yeah.
And 10 years later, it was exactly the same scene, but everybody's color was different.
Yeah.
So it was different color people surfing and white and black lifeguards sitting on the chairs surrounded by pretty girls. I mean, it was exactly the same scene.
So the whole subculture had been taken over
Yeah, but it was like so much had changed, but nothing had changed.
Yes.
It was kind of a bit like that.
Yes.
And I
what
got
was
to...
the nothing that hadn't changed?
Well, it was the same scene. It's a beach scene.
Yeah.
It's the exact same scene that had always been there.
Yeah.
And I started talking to one of the lifeguards, and he started telling me the story about how he had learned to swim and how he'd learned to surf. And he took me back to the township which he came from, which is Lamontville, one of the Durban townships, and started introducing me to people in the township and people around the swimming pool there. And it was an extraordinary story. It was a story about these young boys who'd come out of this swimming pool in this one township along the coast of South Africa and had somehow made it out of the township. And then we ran a series of workshops in that township with people from the community who pretty much came and told stories. And it was out of these stories that eventually...
A script was made,
yeah.
And tell me the story, for those who don't know it, of Otelo Burning.
Otelo Burning is pretty much a story about freedom. It takes place at the transition when apartheid is just ending and Mandela is about to be released from prison. So against that backdrop, it's the story about young boys who learn to surf and through surfing find their way out of the township, but not necessarily away from the violence.
And how has the film been received?
It had a very difficult theatrical release in South Africa. We had a quite dismal theatrical release in South Africa. But then it's sort of gone on to have a sort of not ever-ending life around the world. It's played in 70 different cities and festivals where we've had incredible reception. We had a really nice small theatrical run in New York. We had a small theatrical run in London. And then it sort of got... Then it was put on TV here and it got the most incredible reception. It's been a really interesting journey.
So what was the problem with the cinema release here?
I'm still trying to understand that, and it's something that I'm trying to unpack because of, obviously because of my next film. I think that the audience for this film is mostly a young black audience that doesn't watch South African films in cinema. And when they do watch South African films in cinema, they want escapist films.
Yes.
I think the film opened the same weekend as Avengers opened.
Right.
And I would just go into the cinemas and look at the lines, and these young black kids wanted to watch Avengers.
Yeah.
And I think it's a difficult market to crack because it's a market that's very, very used to quite high quality TV drama. I think over the last 10 years in South Africa, we've had extraordinary TV drama. We've had sort of I think we're at the end of it, but we kind of had a golden age. And it's an audience that doesn't necessarily feel that it should pay for South African cinema.
Yes, it doesn't value it.
It doesn't value it, and it doesn't understand the importance of it. Yeah, I mean, I hope that's not going to be the way it always is, but I think that's the way it is now.